if you're eating more carbohydrates than your body is able to store over a spectrum of time, right? This doesn't happen overnight. This happens after weeks and months and years of eating more carbohydrates and not depleting the tanks. That's the important key. Let's simplify insulin resistance. It's one of the very earliest stages of metabolic syndrome, and I want to try my best to simplify. All these experts make all these terms sound so complicated, but I think a better approach is to assume the simplest situation, because that will let you at least start taking some simple steps forward. So what is insulin resistance? Insulin is a hormone that is put out by the pancreas, and its role is to get the blood sugars out of the bloodstream and into the storage depots in the body. So what are those storage depots? Skeletal muscle is a big sink across your whole body. We can store blood sugar as muscle glycogen. So that's one of the simplest ways we can get it out of the bloodstream, because it's really important for our body to regulate blood sugars. It needs to be somewhere in that range of around 100 milligrams per deciliter. After we eat, it's always going to go up, and it needs somewhere to go. And so understanding that skeletal muscle is the sink is the simple answer to this problem. If we're consuming a large amount of carbohydrates, as one would be in a standard American diet, 250, 350 grams of carbohydrates a day is easy to do. If you're eating 3 square meals, a couple snacks that are carbohydrate based, these are based around flour products, breads, pastries, cookies, chips, even your rices, white rice, even your whole grains are carbohydrate dense. And if you're eating more carbohydrates than your body is able to store over a spectrum of time, right? This doesn't happen overnight. This happens after weeks and months and years of eating more carbohydrates and not depleting the tanks. That's the important key. We know that after resistance training, for example, skeletal muscle is much more insulin sensitive. It responds better to the hormone insulin. Why? Because we've emptied the tank to a certain extent. We've created space for new carbohydrates to get stored. And so it may not be this simple for everyone, but I would estimate that for the grand majority of people, one of the simplest things you can do to improve your insulin sensitivity is simply to exercise more, to burn more carbohydrates through some form of strenuous exercise. It's got to be strenuous. See, we're burning carbohydrates when you're feeling that muscle burn, going upstairs, hiking up mountains, running fast, certainly, or doing any activity where you're really exerting yourself. Of course, resistance training is one of the best ways to directly train the skeletal muscle across the entire body, and that's going to free up a ton of space for new carbohydrates. So if you're struggling with what you might think is insulin resistance, or perhaps prediabetes, which are early symptoms of metabolic syndrome, then exercise is going to be one of your biggest levers that you can pull.